Wow, look at this. We got the band reunited again. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Friar Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network. I'm Darren Smith. That is Marty Caswell. And from The Athletic, that is our good friend, Padres insider Dennis Lin. As we begin this episode today, the Padres are 6-6, just completed a 4-2 trip away from home. Dennis, thank you for joining us. 6-6 means like we're right at the point where you can say the glass is half full or the glass is half empty. How are you viewing the 2026 Padres through their first 12 games of 2026?
Well, I feel like I'm guilty of what maybe some fans are feeling after that 2-4 start. It felt like the sky was falling. Craig Stammen didn't know what he was doing. Offense was never going to recover. They were going to get no hit probably shortly by some random pitcher, and then 4-2 on the road trip. I think all things considered, given that Manny and Tatis are not quite hitting yet, I think all things considered, that's pretty good. So season saved.
Yeah, there you go. And now they return back home. They'll face the Colorado Rockies in a 4-game series, the Seattle Mariners, who are slumping out of the gates. They show up here next week. Dennis, there's a lot of details that we can get to, and I always love appreciate your insight on all of that. But I do want to ask, because we're approaching the midway point of April, about the time where a lot of people who do what you do for a living, who pay attention to these things, felt like we would have some news about Padres ownership. I wonder, what are your reporter senses telling you about where we are with Padres ownership and how close we might be to some sort of news or some sort of announcement?
Well, we reported at The Athletic mid-April is the scheduled date or rough date for final round of bids, second and final round of bids. So we're recording on April 8th. So you can do the math there. It's coming up pretty soon, unless there's some kind of snag I'm not aware of. But right now, I would expect before the end of the month, we'll probably know who the next owner of the team is.
People love to speculate, including myself. Is there an apparent front runner? Do you think of the five? Is it five still, or is it four of the known bidders?
It's four. I've heard various names tossed out there as front runners. Maybe more so than the others, Dan Friedkin. But I mean, a lot of that's speculation.
Right.
So the final bids aren't even in. I mean, I'm sure. As much as John Seidler says he wants to sell to whoever has local ties and wants to carry on Peter's vision, I think it's just good business to choose the highest bidder. And these are four very wealthy groups. I think they're pre-qualified by MLB, so they would probably all be, I would assume, unanimously approved by MLB. Probably shortly after, by the way, whenever a winning bid comes in, they don't have to wait until the next owners' meetings. They can do this by phone or electronically. And I think as we've reported, it's going to be a very, very high price, probably well over $3 billion, depending on how you factor in the amount of debt the Padres have, right now on the books. But still, I think, I've heard, the other suitors are also in the lead at different times. So I'm kind of reluctant to say right now who I'm leaning toward, but I think it's just whoever bids the most money.
You don't want to say who you're leaning towards. Okay, so what's been that process like? So I know that they were given the tour at the Peoria Sports Complex. I imagine they've been around Petco Park. How much digging have they been doing in the Padres business side versus the baseball side, whether it's meeting with AJ Preller and his people or meeting with Eric Grupner and the business side?
Well, as far as digging into the actual financials of the whole operation, that's been going on for a while. There's this thing called a virtual data room, which happens in any franchise sale, where teams get access to basically this online website where they can just look at the intimate financial details of the franchise. So that's been going on for at least a couple months. I heard there were 8 groups that toured Petco. And then eventually that was whittled down to five groups making initial bids, and now it's 4 groups. So I think the 4 groups, they all got a chance to go to the Peoria Sports Complex and meet with management. I think meet with Preller to some extent. I don't know how extensive those meetings were. I know AJ knows Steve Kerr, so I think maybe baseball ops is maybe rooting for Joe Lacob. Again, speculation, maybe slightly uninformed speculation there, but. Yeah, I think the meetings have mostly been done. Now it's just a matter of, again, who's going to be the winning bidder.
One more, Dennis. Of the known bidders that we have, which of these guys is more prone to be hands-on with day-to-day operations on the baseball side versus letting AJ do his thing and vice versa?
Really hard to say, right? Because I don't think any of these guys have, owned an MLB team. They've owned teams in other sports, and Joe Lacob's known as a guy who's pretty hands-on with the Warriors. It's obviously worked out pretty well throughout the years. I guess maybe there's some debate, more recently on where the Warriors are going, and then, I think Dan Freakin's kind of a wild card because he hasn't owned a team in North America. He owns 3 European soccer clubs, which Darren probably know more about than myself, but. I think it looks like he's trying to follow the Fenway Sports Group model, which is either a good or bad thing because, the Fenway Sports Group model seems to be working out well. But then you had fans chanting "sell the team" when the Padres were at Fenway the other day. So who knows there? And then Tom Gores, I think, just based on what's out there publicly, he's become maybe less hands-on over the years, maybe to the benefit of the Detroit Pistons. It seems like they're in a pretty good spot right now. And I think the really interesting thing is, even though these guys are really wealthy, all these bidders, like, are they going to continue to, invest in the product? I mean, first of all, say if you're bidding like 3.5 billion for the team, and you get the team, I wonder, like, does that leave you with less room to spend in the immediate future on the team? And then you got the CBA coming up and all the uncertainty there. So, like, these people did not get wealthy by spending the way Peter did, at least from my observation. But there's also, I think, there's a unique opportunity in San Diego, which is why the supposed price is going to be so high.
And it's incredible to think about that. For the San Diego Padres, sold for $800 million back in 2012. Dennis, I would ask, just to close out sort of on a baseball note, I mentioned 6-6 to start. What has been the actual on-field story for you? What's the thing that you find most intriguing about the 2026 Padres on the field through their first 12 games? Is it a different lineup every day? Is it the lack of production from the leadoff spot? Is it the plight of the 4th and 5th starter? You tell us. What do you find to be so interesting or so intriguing about the Padres thus far on the field?
I think the lineups are a really interesting thing that we all latch onto, right? Like, we're like cats with shiny objects. Fans, media, probably doesn't matter as much as those of us on the outside, not working for the team or playing on the field, actually think. Probably gets overblown a little bit, but I think that's just an easy thing to latch onto. But for me personally, I was kind of hoping that Mason Miller would break Jeremiah Estrada's record of consecutive batters struck out. So it's just really interesting. He's maybe the most dominant relief pitcher we've ever seen in San Diego. No offense to Trevor Hoffman, who's a Hall of Famer, but are they going to let this asset, given the state of the offense, kind of up in the air, whether this offense is going to be able to be actually above average, throughout the rest of the season? Are they going to let this asset, this great bullpen with Mason Miller at the bat, go to waste? Or are they really going to, capitalize, and it's every inning going to be like an 8-inning game because you got Mason Miller coming in and it's basically lights out once he comes in? So I think that's a roundabout way of me saying, like, I just want to see if this offense can finally, can Tatis finally turn it on and be the player he was before the suspension and the surgeries? And can Manny Machado, as he's reaching his mid-30s, and Xander Bogaerts, can they have kind of one last, maybe not last hurrah, but can they still prove that those contracts are going to be 2 of the worst contracts in baseball? So offensively, I think that's the main thing for me. Are they going to be able to hit for some power and actually put this bullpen to good use, make sure they're not wasting this maybe potentially all-time season from Mason Miller?
Last question.
He still has Clay Merritt, this record to track down, by the way.
Darren loves Clay Merritt. Do the Padres have a single player that could be a possible extension candidate? I know they have plenty of trade pieces should this thing bottom out, but do they have anybody in this roster that could be extended?
Yeah, they could extend anyone, right? But I think the question is, should they? I see a lot of fans like rooting for an Adrian Morejon extension, which I don't really get for either side. Like, he's going to do well in free agency, and he's a reliever still. Yeah, I know there's talk about him starting before they kept him in the bullpen, but probably not the best business move, especially since he's a pitcher and he's had some injury history. But I'm just trying to think. Ramon Laureano's in his 30s. I think maybe the Padres should maybe chill out on extensions for a while because they're partially in this kind of in a bind because they passed out too many long-term deals, including the pitchers. And you've seen what happens to Joe Musgrove. For as hard as he worked, we don't know if he's ever going to be Joe Musgrove again. He's got 2 years left on his deal, and he hasn't pitched that many innings, overall since he signed that deal. So I think if you're looking at anyone, it would be one of these prospects coming through their system, except they don't really have any prospects left. So I don't know. I think for right now it's just maybe wait until the next CBA to get resolved, and then make some decisions from there. But right now I don't see any really obvious candidates who kind of warrant it right now.
All right. Well, there you go. I agree. Unless you want to, just extend somebody who's like on the periphery. I don't know. Dennis Lin does have a mailbag, an actual 2-part mailbag available for you at The Athletic. So if we didn't ask the questions that you wanted to hear answered, there's a really, really good chance that Dennis answered those questions at theathletic.com. Dennis, we appreciate you as always. It is great catching up. Thank you for joining us, and we'll do it again soon, I hope.
Custom.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Dennis.
All right, SeatGeek. I do appreciate that they're keeping me up to date on everything that is happening around San Diego because I'm so dialed in on sports. I'm missing all these opportunities to go to concerts. So thank you very much, SeatGeek. SeatGeek is incredible. If you were thinking about any sort of sporting event, any entertainment, anything that's coming to San Diego, or maybe you're on a trip, SeatGeek absolutely has you covered. They're going to get you the best tickets at the best prices. They're even going to rate these tickets for you. So when you open up the app, which you should download and put on your phone, Marty, you're absolutely going to know where you're going and what kind of value you're getting. So thank you very much, SeatGeek.
Yes, perhaps you want to watch the Padres ace Randy Vasquez versus the Rockies, or you want to see the hottest team in baseball, over 500 for the first time in a year. That would be the Colorado Rockies. Or perhaps you're like me, you're a huge Pink fan. She will be at Petco Park in May. SeatGeek is the #1 ticketing app. Over 35 million downloads, over 70,000 events. Why would you think of anything else if you want to buy a ticket? SeatGeek.
So easy to use. I mean, I got my tickets to the NCAA tournament in 5 minutes. The same will happen for you. And of course, we have a code for you. You can use the code Territory10. You'll get 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That is 10% off any tickets. Promo code Territory10. Click the link. It's in the description right here of this show. Download the app. Have the code automatically added to your account. You can use it later. That's 10% off your next SeatGeek order. Thank you very much to SeatGeek. All right, Marty. Well, the Padres do return back to Petco Park. They went 4-2. They went through Boston, and they went through a pretty good Pittsburgh Pirates team as well. I know we're used to thinking just out of habit that Pittsburgh isn't any good, but if you remember one of the conversations we had before the season started, Pittsburgh, according to Fangraphs, had significantly better odds in their projections of making the playoffs than the Padres did. Now, it's ridiculous to be sitting here the second week of April talking about, well, maybe this will pop up at the end of the year and there's a tiebreaker scenario. But if you do think that Pittsburgh is new, improved, younger, and they're extending some of their younger players, their star prospects, and you had to see Paul Skeens for the first time ever, then I would say taking 2 out of 3 and 4 out of 2 or 4 out of 6 on the road, I should say, that's a good road trip no matter how you want to slice it. We can nitpick apart the offense. We could talk a little bit about some of the complications and some of the problems that the team had. But I don't know how you can slice it any other way other than to say 4-2 is really, really good for the Padres coming back to Petco Park.
Anytime. I know a lot of times the goal when you go on the road, Darren, is to finish 500. And if you can get on the road, man, that's a great road trip. It doesn't matter how you did it. It doesn't matter if you grinded your way through, which they did. It doesn't matter if you're getting the production from the guys at the bottom of the lineup. Some of your bargain basement guys too, whether it's a Nick Castellanos or a Miguel Andujar or Luis Camposano, by the way, who gave them a pretty important insurance run, although it took some suspense off Mason. He got a hit, baby. He got a hit.
The suspense.
Hey, Darren. Listen, on the last show we did on Friar Territory, you talked about how difficult it is this time of the year for these guys to get up there, right? To get out there at home plate, and you look up and you see like a 0 batting average. If you're Luis Camposano, by the way, you've been carrying that thing for 10 years. So he got that out of the way. Manny Machado got his first home run out of the way. Nick Castellanos got his first Padres RBI out of the way. So you know what? It's a good thing. You didn't get production. You're still waiting for Tatis to be that guy. You're still waiting for Manny Machado to be that guy. But the important thing is we heard so much about the length of this lineup, and you are seeing some more production coming from the guys at the bottom of the order, which I think is a good thing.
And I think that's a great point. And, it's something that we talked about how much better looking it was, even if it was just on paper, that sometimes you get through the first four, maybe the first five in previous years, and you would say, well, here comes the absolute black hole of the lineup because 6, 7, 8, 9, these guys can't hit a lick. And you don't know what to make out of this team at all. But even in games where, like you said, Manny Machado has hit one home run and Fernando Tatis Jr. has yet to homer, there were games where you were carried by the bottom third. And it wasn't like a fluke where you're like, oh, wow, okay, well, that was kind of surprising. Wow, Malty Maldonado had 2 hits. Who would have suspected? Castellanos has produced. Jake Cronenworth, he didn't have the best road trip. By the way, do you know that Jake Cronenworth brings his own pillow on the road?
That's not surprising. A lot of guys do that.
Do they?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I think Khalil Green used to travel with like his own bedding, not just his pillow, like everything.
One of our listeners told me, because I brought this up on a different platform, one of our listeners told us that Shohei Ohtani actually has a mattress brought every single city that he goes to.
Oh, of course.
Possible?
100%, 1,000%, because this guy spends more time sleeping. I think Ohtani spends more time sleeping than he does awake, like 12 hours a night. It's not just him. A lot of Japanese players are like that, too. I think Yamamoto's the same way.
Anyhow.
Yeah,
I don't mean to get wrapped up in Jake Cronenworth, and I mean, he didn't
and
have
his,
a great
and his
road trip.
pillow.
He was 3 for 20, but he homered.
Yeah.
And so that's something. But where was I going with all of this? I've completely forgotten. I got distracted by these guys and their habits.
Cronin, the bottom of the order.
The bottom of the lineup is actually, it's been more than competent. It's been regularly contributing to the Padres' success. Now, I still don't know what the identity of this team is. And I know that we spend time talking about like, well, they're 26th in slug and they're 29th in home runs hit, and they only have, 6 now? Is it 6 home runs? Maybe it's 7 after Cronenworth's on Wednesday. And just by comparison, because these numbers might mean nothing. You say, well, listen, I mean, what's the point of bringing up where you rank when you're 10 games, 11, 12 games into a season? But just as an example, I will tell you, like the Dodgers have 21 home runs and the Padres had 5 entering them today. The Houston Astros had like 120 hits and the Padres had 70. So that's a significant amount. It's not just about the rankings. So they're not there. They are absolutely not there yet. And I do think even after 6 stolen bases, which is more than they had through the first 11 games, I think Marty's struggling to understand exactly what the offensive identity of the Padres is or where they are or who they are up until this point. I mean, last year it was all about trying to bunt and play for a run, and if you can take a 3-1 lead or a 3-2 lead into the 7th inning, then you turn it over to the bullpen.
Right,
and that still feels like it's a good strategy. But when you identify one of the things that you want to get better at, and that thing yet hasn't materialized, even with 150 games to go, 150 games to go, you do say, like, what is the identity of this team right now? And it's really kind of hard to put your finger on.
I don't think the Padres know, which is why Craig Stammen has used 35 different lineups, Darren. I really don't think they know. I mean, they don't even know the identity of the leadoff hitter, although for now it looks more and more like it's going to be Ramon Laureano for the future, right? Although who knows, maybe it'll be Tatis tomorrow. But I don't think the Padres know what their identity is because they're not seeing the production from their core guys. I know they had that one good game in Boston, where they all contributed, Tatis, Machado, Bogaerts, who's been, by the way, Bogaerts has had a very strong start, Jackson Merrill as well, but I don't think the Padres know because the guys they're relying on to be the core of their offense, they have not really produced in the manner that we are expecting them to. I think we're expecting to. And by the way, you mentioned identity and you mentioned Tatis. And Darren, I know you had this conversation before. Do you think that, and I know what Tatis said, and I know what Stammen said, more slug, more power, more RBI from this guy, he's capable of more. And you've made a point forever that Tatis' his season last year was a very, very good season. When do we start thinking maybe that's just more of who that guy is? Maybe the Tatis that was very good for the Padres, Darren, led them in more, less home runs, led them in runs scored. Maybe that's more, and walks. of the style of player Tatis actually is. Are we there yet?
Or I'll just say, didn't Tatis have an absolutely insane April in 2025?
He did,
and
MVP
then
month.
leveled off for the
Yes.
rest of the month, even though
Yes.
he was still an all-star, and even though
He
he
did.
still was very productive and set career highs in certain categories. But he had a month where everybody was like, he's back. Everybody, he is back. Fernando Tatis Jr. from 2019 to 20. He has returned. Thank you, our savior. Fernando. And then it's like, well, what's going on here? And we became body language experts where we were analyzing this guy every night. Like, oh, he's moping again. And maybe this will be the reverse. I don't know. I don't know what to think anymore about Fernando Tatis Jr. I don't, because again, it's just, it's 12 games in, but you thought for sure, okay, they're the worst producing team in Major League Baseball from the leadoff spot.
Yep.
Put the guy back in there. There was no reason that you had to tinker around with that thing whatsoever. But now it feels like that's a spot in the lineup that nobody can get any production from. So I hope not, Marty. I mean, I hope we're not just saying, listen, it was a real shame what happened to that guy. That guy, he could shoot the moon once upon a time, but now we're not so sure what's become of that great guy, Fernando Tatis Jr., the pre and the post suspension, the pre and the post injury Fernando. I mean, it's a mystery to everybody that I speak to about exactly what kind of player this person is moving forward.
That would be I would agree. But I'm reminded of how the way that Tatis helped the Padres beat the Red Sox. Was it Saturday night when he hit the 4K performance, 2 outs in the ninth inning?
0-2.
Yeah, and how many players are scoring on that? He can be a game changer, and I hope he gets back to being that guy. I don't know where the fit is. I don't know if you bat him first, you bat him second right now. But again, leadoff is a black hole. Where is Tatis's fit? It's hard to really to pin down the identity until you know exactly what type of player Tatis is going to be. Because you talk about the most talented players in the team, you start with that guy, and we don't know.
I know, it's kind of crazy because I think most people would tell you they feel better about the Padres offense in 12 games than they did through 162.
1,000%.
The players who you're paying the most money to haven't done squat.
Right.
Right. Like just have not done anything at all. And you're like, oh yeah, way better. Oh, way better team.
No, it is. It is a way better team. It absolutely is. And here, a couple of reasons why. Number one, Pivetta, he's going to be fine. Michael King, he's going to be fine. Randy Vasquez, he has arrived, right? They can do just enough. They can survive Walker Buehler. They can survive German Marquez until they get, hopefully, Griffin Canning back. Maybe you're going to get a glimpse of Matt Waldron sooner rather than later. But they're going to need their offense to carry them in some of those games. And they really haven't done that yet. They've shown you a couple glimpses there, Darren. But you ask for identity. The identity of the Padres remains the pitching staff. But at some point, they need that offense to carry them.
I will say there was a bit of a, I don't want to say alarming, but it was certainly a noteworthy report in the Union Tribune about Joe Musgrove's progress.
Yes.
And just a couple of quotes that I cherry-picked here, where Craig Stammen did say, quote, "It is a slow and arduous process back for Joe Musgrove." Joe did say himself, quote, "It's just not cooperating as I would want it to." And, did say that there's pain still, lingering pain and breaking balls. Seems to be at least some questions about him getting back, his rehabilitation, pushing himself, which we know, right? Like Joe's found himself in situations where he's such a dedicated worker that sometimes it's like, oh, well, this is weird. He dropped a kettlebell on his foot, or he's running in the outfield and burned the soles of it, So, it's not because it's almost, I don't want to say it's because he cares too much, because that's a hard thing to quantify. And how do we know that Joe Musgrove cares more than everybody else? But we do know that he cares, and we do know that he wants to be a contributor, and that this really, really matters to him. And, you can just read something. We talked to him on Friar Territory just a couple of weeks ago. But, man, you can just you can read through the confusion and a little bit of the pain, I think, in some of these quotes in this most recent update, Marty. So who knows? Maybe one day you wake up and everything feels great. But to your point now, I did notice that you said getting Canning back, getting Waldron back. Although let's not bury Marquez either. He just had a really good outing.
No, again, you're hoping that one of those two will stick in the rotation. And if Walker Buehler can be effective, maybe he's a guy that you're going to use in long relief. So I'm not going to bury either one of them, especially Marquez with what we've seen. But I'm just saying that, like, right now, if you're the Padres, you have got to be elated on what you've seen from on Vasquez, because that rotation was a big question. You have a 1-2-3 you feel pretty good about right now. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, and that'll take you some places. All right, so here's what's on deck for the Padres.
Okay.
They will start a 4-game series against the Colorado Rockies. This will start on Thursday. I have not seen the Rockies announce a starter yet. But,
no, still TBD.
Padres, still TBD.
By the way, Eric Karras's kid plays for the Rockies.
Is that right?
Yeah, he has a son on the Rockies.
Patrick Henry High School.
Patrick Henry, yeah, pride of PHHS. That's right.
So we got a little bit of legacy out there on the field between Tatis and Karras. So, okay.
Yeah,
well, I'll be on the lookout for that, I suppose. Okay. Colorado Rockies in town, and it'll be Randy Vasquez, to your point, and then we'll see Walker Buehler on a Friday night.
I think the Padres site
City
had that
Connect
listed.
game?
It should be Bueller, but I think it was listed as TBD. And then Marquez on Saturday, and then Pivetta on Sunday. So,
And maybe we might see Jason Adam, I should say.
Jason Adam,
is
yep.
expected back here
Pretty
quickly as well. So, the strength, I don't know what's going on with Adrian Morejon. 3 straight games where he's allowed to run. I looked this up. He hasn't done that in years. Like, it's been years since he's had that kind of stretch. So
that's why Dennis said,
panic button, just noteworthy.
I know fans wanted him extended right away. Maybe you're always going to pause with the relief pitchers, especially when there's injury in the background in their history. So we'll see.
So 4-game series, then the Seattle Mariners, then an off day on Monday, and then the Seattle Mariners, which we can talk about next week, who are really sort of stumbling out of the gate. Padres and Rockies, by the way, have identical records at 6-6.
It's exciting.
Heading into the series. So it's a big showdown in the NL West, isn't it? I mean, it is a big 4-game NL West showdown.
Can't look past
Josh Burns and Paul DePodesta, Marty. Are you excited about that?
Moneyball, baby.
Josh
Burns, I forgot about that. I knew Paul DePodesta was there, but man, they get busy in that dugout. I got a lot of questions to ask. Mostly about the Cleveland Browns.
Back in the GM booth for the first time since he left the Padres.
Wow, that's quite something. Depot, huh?
Depot, president of baseball operations.
I wonder why he wanted to leave the Browns for the Rockies.
I wonder. Probably because they stink.
And the Rockies.
I don't follow the NFL.
Never mind. It's like you're
I don't really know. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, based on some of the offseason rumors, it's AJ Preller facing the team that he was linked to due to some gossip in the offseason. So I don't know. Maybe a bit of a statement here.
Josh Burns, man. A lot of former Padres executives walking around. Good for him.
Yeah, and then we'll just trot Buddy Black out there too to counter the Josh Burns.
I like it.
Podesta.
Win one for Buddy.
Yeah, win one. We'll hire your former guys, and we'll see what happens. And that's a big one for Marquez as well over the weekend. So he gets to pitch against his former team. Not that they left on bad terms, but just that they went their separate ways.
You always want to look good in front of your ex.
I will say,
put on a tighter dress.
What? Say what now?
You want to wear like a tighter dress in front of your ex.
What does that mean?
Never mind. Just forget it. I'm just saying you want to look good. You want to look good.
Metaphor.
You want to look good in front of your ex.
And you look good in front of your ex by wearing a tighter dress?
Well, never mind. Go ahead. Some people will get it. Some won't. No, I don't mean Marquez. Forget it. Go on.
I did have a GM once upon a time say that he actually evaluated players based on how they performed against their prior teams.
Oh, really?
Because he thought that was an indicator of, he did think that was one of these non-quantifiable indicators of what a competitor is and how a person might be wired.
You want to stick it to him. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was more about trading than it was about a guy who's just like, hey, listen, dude, it's the end of the road for us here. So
right.
Why don't we just go our separate ways? But could be an interesting weekend. There's giveaways and jerseys being revealed at Petco
City
Park.
Connect, baby.
City Connect. So that's the big unveil coming up on Thursday. Thank you to Dennis Lynn of The Athletic. You can go check out D-Lynn's work. He is answering your questions at The Athletic. You, of course, can follow Friar Territory. You can subscribe on YouTube. You can listen and subscribe wherever it is that you get your podcasts.
Yes, sir. Darren, I do want to mention we also have an Instagram page. We are on the IG at Friar Territory. I put some clips from this show there. I also put some pre and post from the Padres clubhouse. So make sure that you're on the lookout for at Friar Territory. We would love a like and a follow. Let's go on Friar Territory, baby.
And of course, you can go and you can buy the latest gear at Friar
Yes, you
Territory
can.
Shop.
Have you gotten some gear?
No, I have not.
Oh, wow.
Crazy, isn't it?
Too bad, Darren. The gear is so soft. Those T-shirts, buttery soft, baby. Love them. The hat,
buttery soft.
buttery soft.
Buttery
Hats,
soft gear.
they fit perfectly on my head. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't know these things. I guess this is just me. I'm still on my rookie contract, so I've not received the extension yet. I'm still in my probationary period, so I hopefully will get the gear when I get out of the probationary
There you
period,
go.
whenever that date might be. Thank you to Dennis Lynn. Thank you to Marty Caswell. Thank you very much, everybody at Foul Territory. We'll see you next time right here on Friar Territory.